deprived. Alright.
You sent the one I see ages ago, yeah?
Yes, we are all here.
Okay.
I sent them when I see a minute ago. Can I get a thumbs up? I got online. One. Iowa. Is that both of you on cool?
It's trying. Okay, yep, I'm good.
Alright, cool. I'll start in a few seconds unless I hear anything else. The advantage of MIRVs, the advent of MIRVs completely altered the trajectory of the Cold War, enabling the pursuit of disarming first strikes and nuclear annihilation. These Cold War remnants are still driving today's nuclear races. As covered in Wheeler 16, the nuclear arms race were intensified by the advent of MIRVs and top-sea-based missile probes, propelled vertical proliferation more than any tech advance of the accurate missile warhead or sufficient warhead being used for kind of first targeting, increases in MIRV missile accuracy level, the expansion kind of first targeting the warheads were getting constant arm racing, replaced long range missiles, the MIRV increased the missile accuracy and the sophisticated kind of first target. They provide HDK capabilities and returns of nuclear techniques predicated ability to attack opposing forces directly against Harvard National League supremacy with arms control nuclear war fighting strategy occurring during the first nuclear war was at the heightened security nuclear arms race system accompanying MIRVs now began in Asia, India, China, Pakistan, engaged in unique triangular competition and external drive of the action taken by Washington, affect Beijing disclosures, and even a limited nuclear war escalates and causes extinction. That's Acts 19. Researchers simulated an exchange of small yield nuclear weapons, small nuclear war, any would be civilization, any the risk of NDT dramatically when the US and Russia developed nuclear weapons to fuel everything using million nuclear weapons to hold the escalated all out destruction rate and destruction organized war game involving defense officials. The Soviet Union PC bill yield nuclear strength and attacks fund with massive style. The result was catastrophe, and now is key. ICBMs will be remerged plus SSBMs have the configuration for them. That's Transovic 24. The head of STRATCOM has called for ICBMs, called the warheads we need to take out. Serious consideration taking what re-merging ICBMs looks like. Taking like an opportunity, the potential to do that. The commission-specific recommendation is planned to deploy a central and MIRV configuration, increase the volume of threats, and have other kind of mission detection and intercepts more complex SSBMs have MIRV configuration. Their future component cost. SSBMs are set to be armed. The limiting factor currently MIRV SSBMs. The new start, which proposes how many warheads the US can have deployed over the MIRV to Sentinels. The US military have to make warhead trades across the nuclear triad. The new start was sunset in 2026. There is 2026. There is no guarantee new treaty will be successfully negotiated. Russia expanded participation last year, and the existence of ICBMs makes accidental nuke war inevitable. That's Wilson 16. ICBMs can stand to be eliminated while they can technically regional code. China Iran missiles would have to overfly Russia. Russia was a counterattack enemies world. The definition of threats would not require them. ICBMs reduce the pressure of reaction time to decline energy for both you use it or lose the scenario plus a long time more often than you think. The defense pressure can command nuclear war threat symbol. Technical glitch. The idea 1,152 false alarms between 1997 and 84. The mere existence of 19 ICBMs complicates decision making process with thermonuclear annihilation. The ultimate consequence is no room to rely on luck and expose days burns reporting the institutional culture ramp up misconduct among the ICBM, including drug abuse and cheating on technical readiness tests. High and bored human beings are not who you want controlling nuclear missiles. And MIRVs come to collapse arms reductions and drove vertical proliferation between the US and Russia. But the removal of MIRVs uniquely removes the roadblock towards complete global disarm. That's Arbatov and Dvorkin 16. The advent of MIRVs have overall negative effect on strategic stability, the scale and arms of the scale and rate of the arms race calculation sufficient nuclear force against means of weapon deployment, the search for compromised arms control targets, MIRV missiles, played outside role in US and Russian nuclear force problematic and strategic relation for stabilizing nuclear weapons, doctrine, arms control, this remains strategic stability, except the objective possibility for strike moving inside the side conduct the logic either having be allowed to prevent retaliation, essentially reduce the consequence for strike applies. It takes much of the point strategic weapons possible for the last second wars, the warhead nucleus not dependent first strike capacity, the more vessels is more than missile, the more check because the target even possibly destroying warheads would be spent a strike against the neutral ability to deterrent forces greater, the streak stability stronger than there are fewer warheads per vehicle. Almost 20 years watching to go up strategic instruction MIRVs and kind of force capabilities with already expansion of MIRV programs and unilateral review bilateral agreements. Power arms could have been contained instead because of MIRVs and the expansion of kind of force capabilities to start one reduction begin from levels of 10,000 warheads and negative effects MIRVs has lingered after the Cold War start 2 treaty signed in 1993 envisioned a reduction down to 3,000 warheads while banning MIRV ICBMs seems to be a badly unequal agreement in Russian communities that codified a huge advantage to US and MIRV SLBM. Central treaty was never legal forces now for MIRV systems humankind would be living with nukes, and the continuation of MIRVs are dangerous vestiges of a Cold War arms race, and it continues to reinforce the drive to nuclear supremacy. That's McDonald 14. The United States tradition removing MIRVs from its ICBMs is now carrying a warhead that movement and his ability to nuclear bounds or anything instead of to strike first. MIRVs allowed developing warheads now small enough to several fit in one missile with a warhead made to maximize the damage of a single warhead because US missile beams so carry MIRVs in front of this is one warhead can show that all the warheads and MIRV ICBM that could use the scenario strike first in time of crisis. SLBMs are generally considered to be invulnerable to attack and create the same concern, and thus the plan resolved. The United States to restrict its nuclear forces by eliminating intercontinental ballistic missiles and nuclear missile-armed submarines, and ICBM abolition is a touchstone for critical approaches that are key to undermining entrenched militaristic beliefs. That's RI 21. ICBMs find a military-industrial complex, colonized weapons, building blocks, taking aims at certain lives, having just everyone to the environment, held otherwise visible public college, gateways to injury, or wrestling, drawing connection with the ICBM, abolition, and others, the same way. They start moving against policing, national ship, understanding public safety, and the police, special anti-militarism, seeks to challenge the idea, new job security, looking at movements such as disability, rights-based abolition scale, method and models, scale, community care, spreading ideas, security, still lost militarism campaigns, much connected, with perceived benefits of those project options, particularly difficult, some replaying perception is an uphill battle, and ICBM abolition still invested in divestment for Americans, lots of health insurance, and scenario planning is key to ensuring actions have ethical consequences. That's bag 16. In order to aid political justice, we did envision the consequence of large-scale change in material circumstances, eschewing like a pessimist realistic Norse commitment to theory that's comparative, contextual, institutional, and grounded in specific situation, political situation, practical, lack of actual highly extended by disposition, others, express purpose of theory to consider which opinions are worth trying in those circumstances, by state avoiding what was rash. Irresponsible opinions are vital, so that everything installed in school is mass family to this adventure Latin American police farms have bringing our enthusiasm for our predicted enterprises. Examples reinforces vital necessity and no root cause. That's GAT 9. Attempts to find the root cause of war in place there are necessarily not sufficient cause of war, but the whole cannot be broken to pieces. Needs, desires of all the questions of power to kill all human identity. Insufficient cause of war have to be filled with the particulars of each case, and even if IR is flawed, it's not a reason to reject harm reduction. That's Isaac 15. What IR is or is not as a point of was it achieved, we want to know why states should go to war would be useful. Getting logically coherent, verifiable answers, and analyze case use of data. Creates knowledge I reliever can concrete human as pragmatic science, causes driven by empirical cause theoretical problem theory, but might choose to focus on racism or issues other great components of humanity problematic approach. Consider the much paradigm scored more points in the context of supremacy than which how the world could respond. Many are trying to demonstrate an Irish liberalism. This is self-obsessed. The problem is that the projects that shift far from the concrete roads that drops militarism, millions of people who do not have degrees in IR and extinction should be prioritized. That's 14. Given the existence of global threats to the humankind, right to survive should be assured that it's the first fundamental right. This philosophical legal nobody seems to take note that life of opposite features individuals can be annihilated, like consisting of first debating the rights of a ship, taking action like the ship is already taking on seawater problems, just like nuclear weapons, and everybody knows destroy human civilization. The shifting the theory to exclusive potential and inner subjectivity as of nuclear threats, critical theories seem to be reluctant to adjust philosophical issues raised by global challenge, literature, justice, to the point we have to motivate our interest in existence. We should assume responsibility for future generation, but doing so we can't for those how we get ourselves to research that life is meaningful to help such isolation become part of society. Human rights can only type of living humankind and more limit accepts of life, fundamental rights, include wars, potential for our political actions, one community, legal formation, like the great education, political structure support from civil society, and reject a reform versus revolution dichotomy, starting with pragmatic incremental gains and mobilize the population in support of a systemic change. That's Levine 21. Pragmatism has been changed with finding us any sort of pulling society up by the roots of the same wishy-washy liberalism, accelerationist argues all change to prolong or acceptance of fundamentally violent system that if its structural change sacrifice to peaceful reforms do not get in the way of structural change, conservative revolutionary and opposition to revolutionary reform is a false dilemma. Women such as a crucial example of Davis' expensive civil rights of Obama Wolf. Hybrid game measures not the concession of assimilations, but a larger fight for civil rights and a revolution wealth that comes turns into protections that gets up revolution and self-defeating. Mama's wrong choice. Sets into motion further demands which will lead to the right choice and ensure credit being surgery the right choice. Even worse, even worse than making a wrong choice. That has to people more inclined to mobilize around meeting causes of suffering, concrete demands. Practical charges they effectively protect voting rights, marriage equality, and through work buzz. Revolutionary action advises to get our hereditary and imperfect policy focus on mobilizing, organizing, planning, to engage in unromantic demanding work through elections, legal rights, and institutions.
This was sent out.
Short-term nuclear restraint and limited restrictions are key to deconstructing broader nuclearism and necessary to prevent nuclear war. In the meantime, that's 10 and 20. Nuclear armed states should move toward a global regime of nuclear restraint. Responsibility refers to nuclear armed states pursuing limited forms of deterrence, being accountable to the international community. Disarm must remain the ultimate goal, the immediate goal of preventing nuclear war. Even those for whom disarm is far in the future, they should still be able to embrace many of the tenets of responsible deterrence.
Grab water and that'll be good.
How do you want to do cross-ex vis-a-vis judge volume, etc.?
So if you both turn your volume off, it shouldn't echo. We won't be able to hear anyone on Zoom, but as long as there's no issues, it should work.
You mean like output volume?
Turn off output volume so that there's no echo, and then both have your mics on, and I think it should be fine.
I got that.
Perfect.
Okay.
I got your earbuds, so that should work.
Yeah.
Wait, now let me pin that. Matt, if I talk like this, is it echoing for you? No. Okay.
Cool.
Yay. I'm sending out one thing before cross-ex, so I'm not gonna see it. Otherwise, we'll just like show people here. All right, sent. But as long as people are good, then I'm good.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. I want to talk about this, like already read after the 1AC disarm must remain the ultimate goal. How does the 1AC make disarm the ultimate goal, and why?
Sure. The 1AC talks about arms racing and arms control agreements historically have either happened, arms racing has happened, and arms control agreements have not happened because the advent of
No,
MERS.
but that's not answering my question though, because my question is, You said disarm must remain the ultimate goal. My question is, how does the 1AC make it such?
Because we make it possible for arms control agreements to be agreed to by other
Wait,
countries.
why?
They think in the status quo that the US has an extreme advantage because they have MIRV SLBMs.
But like, low-key, if you want to disarm, why didn't you just do that?
I mean,
Okay, that's fine.
We think
I-
unilateral disarm is
we
an
think
achievement
that
of
like
status
getting
quo.
rid of
Sure.
ICBMs and subs is a good idea because they
Well,
have MIRVs on them.
But no, I'm asking, you said disarm should be the ultimate goal. My question is, why didn't you affirm it then?
Yeah,
If you had
so
the
we don't think
choice-
disarm, unilateral disarm, complete disarm of all three triads of the nuclear arsenal is reasonable in the
Wait,
status
why
quo.
is it not reasonable?
Well, it's actually what Tandem 119, the last card we read,
Yeah.
talks about.
Yeah.
It says that short-term restraint, i.e. getting someone rid of some nuclear weapons,
Short-term.
opens up dialogues for other
Wait, but-
states, so
But you
Well, I
don't
mean-
reason disarm is bad. You reason
I
it does.
presumably you're gonna make an argument about durable fiat, right? The plan is feasible because we think it should happen. So why is the plan that you read any more feasible than affirming disarm? Like, I don't understand the internal link.
yeah, we think short-term restraint via only disarming some of the nuclear arsenal is key to actually actualizing some mobilized change. Because nuclear weapons still
But- Yeah, but you're using fiat to get there, right? That's fine. All right, whatever. You read a piece of 1AC evidence. I think it's the Wilson card. It says U.S. ICBMs did nothing to deter 9/11 attacks. What would have deterred the 9/11 attacks?
Not nuclear weapons.
Okay,
Is
for
that
sure.
right?
Yeah.
The
I guess I wanna
1AC,
talk-
like we don't really know
Yeah.
what would have.
Okay.
We don't take a position on that.
Okay. What? Sure, that's fine. You've tagged your ISACOP card to say we should engage in harm reduction. If we win that you have caused harm, how should you be accountable for that harm in this debate?
Sure, I guess. It depends on the kinds
Well,
of harm.
Well, harm reduction is good, right? What kind of harm reduction should we engage in this debate space if we've been that you have caused harm?
well, we think that as
Go ahead.
individually, the card doesn't really talk about how we should.
Oh, but I guess I'm asking you though.
Yes, yeah, I mean, but you're referring to the card itself. Do you want me to answer what the card
But-
talks about in IR, or
well,
do you want me to
you
answer
tagged
how
it.
I think
I guess,
the card should
okay,
be
my
addressed in
question,
the space?
sure, my question is this. You have read a piece of 1AC evidence. This is the most recent article that the author has read.
The 1AC got evidence.
The 1AC got evidence. How should we engage in harm reduction for things like reading authors that ask how to best strategically achieve the aims of the war in Gaza?
Yeah, so we think we're reading militarized authors in order to circumvent their underlying arguments.
What are you talking about? Alright.
It's, okay, I'm gonna unmute. This is everyone else muted?
Oh wait, I need to mute.
Okay.
I'm muted.
It's just case. And it should be fine now. My computer's a little slow at the moment, so I think it might be using this. You're okay? Is everyone here good?
Just 1 second, it's still opening. I'm good.
Okay, and we're gonna resume, perfect. If there's like Zoom issues, just verbally interrupt me, because my Zoom, it'll be minimized, but. U.S. nuclear posture, sometimes about the science and logics of imperial domesticity and wants its investment in a domestic anti-nuclear public reproduces militarized humanitarianism and necropolitics haunted by succeeding military logic, even every domesticalized militarized domesticity culture, nuclear kinship culture, of militarization seems to the everyday domesticity is many capability of imperialism, about racialized national shock, the cartographic desires need, forged identity, investment in whiteness, colonial conquest, undercurrent. U.S. nuclear domesticity is a home for the nuclear family with the nuclear project and the jurisdictional codes of the nuclear domestic operates through trans necropolitics through which sovereignty sends its mandate into the future. The one sees affirmation The biopolitical imperative to secure the liberal form of life in the face of nuclear violence requires a corresponding extension of the medical imperative of transcendence is legal. 22. A transnecropolitics makes the limits of biopolitics multiplicity of killing to enable proliferation of brown collaboration, convention of life and death. Publicity with U.S. expansion policies sponsoring a certain kind of life view as liberal and Bible working extensively with death killing career. The necropolitical brings into the view that everyday death worlds that take place in essentially both spectacular and banal as assimilations, logic, sense, and the symbiotic components of life and death, open cleavages of analysis in both the mundane and spectacular orders of legibility and reproduction is enabled by the ongoing exclusion of black people from the future privatization, militarization, and criminalization functions as background of gay politics, delineating which will have to have access to the future through which, through the active fostering of death, transgender politics, space splits off orders of visibility and legibility from each other. Death transcends are rendered illegible even when they are spectacularized. Necropolitics is tied to sovereignty, linking the production of states and reproduction of the subject, complicating and also sovereignty beyond identification with the institutions of the state, the jurisdictional descriptive formations of sovereignty established in everyday spaces, recognition by the state multiplies the sovereign death distribution, and the one he has invoked disarmament as an empty signifier becomes a receding horizon which joins within mirrors neo-imperialist NGOs like cautious which redirect public sentiment towards increasing U.S. power while also expanding colonial interventions when policy elites react to the loss of weapons through new techniques for geopolitical dominance. That's combined grab 10. Disarm campaigns built support for increased U.S. money and nukes as well as more religion and foreign policy. The goal of foreign policy for the U.S. is to maintain nuclear materials. Forget disarm. Lofty moral ultimately matter with perspective of geostrategy. Nuclear weapons comprise a small part of much greater geopolitical game. Nukes have become liabilities of the states, but nuclear liberals fear the U.S. is hardly attacked by the name of non-proliferation with no interest in disarmament to be hypocrisy, but repackaging anti-nuclearism and fear of nukes to justify essentially U.S. control over the rest of the world. Postures narrow the range of acceptable anti-nuclear activism fades on natural global problems such as existence impossible use of nukes NGOs that obey survive funding with so long as they kiss the ring plow. Shares priorities are shaped by the board of directors made up of Democratic Party donors and for-profit corporations that manage the nation's two nuclear weapons labs. The public fears about nuclear weapons legitimate more aggressive foreign policy aimed at regime change in Iran and elsewhere, and tinkering with the arsenal is a bad place to orient our resistance. It's an imperial move that simply restructures the posture of nuclear arsenal without changing the material weapons or structures that sustain imperial war, making that ashes in 22 arms control has left the dummy ideological of financial support for nuclear weapons and arms control could be a system reform through which modifications to nuclear weapons policies are undertaken without getting us closer to elimination. Arms control's use to justify building new nuclear weapons. Madison told Congress he supported plans for a new U.S. nuclear armed submarine launch cruise missiles. I want negotiators to have something to negotiate with, and talks on the INFT performance makes it more difficult to achieve transformations because they have to legitimize the system, but also takes away energy from more meaningful changes decade after decade. The same arms control steps have been put forward, ban testing, be more transparent, reduce countries in which governments would use nuclear weapons. These all sound reasonable until you learn the same measures have been talked about since the 1950s. Nuclear arms states have been investing billions of dollars into modernization. Nuclear force reductions are actually nuclear force restrictions. Endless discussions about possible reforms provide an illusion of serious efforts. Arms control enables a performance of responsibility. Even those arms control measures have been adopted are coming a part of the same. Nuclear arms states are party to the treaty have not complied with legal obligation contained in the treaty to eliminate the nuclear weapons. They also have refused to accept responsibility for failing to comply with the treaty or commitments made in 95, 2000, or 2010 to implement the nuclear disarmament provisions or to accept new commitments in 2015 or 2022. Piecemeal efforts have detracted from disarmament. Such a policy does not affect the material reality of nuclear weapons. It leads nuclear forces and deployments and tag the catastrophic impacts of nuclear weapon detonation are the same whether they're part of the first or second strike. The performativity has arms control has meant that operational policies related to nuclear deterrence have become twinned with arms control, just like prisons are twinned with parole. Arms control measures are akin to moving around the ticking time bomb on chessboard. Reformism reifies rather than liberates us from the inherent violence, discrimination, and exclusion and inequality generated by nuclear weapons. And invocation of extinction denies the ongoing genocides of the status quo at the expense of preserving a future that few can access. That's Davidson. 22. Extinction of politics is emergent policies are no arguments for hegemony, concerned with measuring and aggregating life to the level of the mass of the people and optimizing life expectancy that has to defend the population from collective risk. The subject is the species not only in the present but also in the future. Nuclear war that kills 99% of another that kills 100% is not merely a tiny fraction of words. There's a qualitative difference with the first offering humanity, the possibility of recovery. This is just risk focus of the survival of species, safeguarding the potential for billions of future lives, maximizing utility across the population. The vigor of one part of the population may be dependent on the demise of another part. Certain people die, especially those in death worlds of the colonial zones, so that others survive mirrored by the extinction policies, which is also concerned with maximizing utility. The biopolitical tax means the future is still trying to hold on the present. Extinction policies involves the power to foster life or disallow to the point of death. People in the present may be sacrificed to increase utility in the future. The empirical dimension of the field focus is on identifying these alientations and keen concern with calculating a risk, aggregating information to predict and regulate threats. There's an actuarial logic concerned with assigning probabilities here that catastrophic dangers. The risks ultimately matter are those that have the capacity to cause extinction and other forms of risk, even though ones that arise by death, such as genocides or mere ripples on the surface of the great sea of life. To calculate probabilities of risk and arrange them in a hierarchy of seriousness reinforces the biopolitics of catastrophe. The choice shapes of concrete political changes advocated sidelines suffering of actual people can be used to justify and inflict suffering in the name of protecting the future of humanity. I'm going to cut the card to humanity. Political violence maintains the West's national form through the deadly concurrence of counterpositions. The one to see is an invitation invitation to participate in an empire that classifies the ongoing and racialized genocides of trans politics by refurbishing the civilizational imperative that undergirds the nuclear arsenal. The only response is militant opposition. That's Rodriguez 19. There was no scientific exception, just a normally conceived reform refurbishing a civilizational imperative. The white national form is everywhere proliferating, reducing racial domination, totalitarian, inducing gestures of subjection are imagine the course of promises of suspended futurity for the civil enemy profile, generational domestic war survival. For the absolute pretenses and instances that there is a future to be shared of humanity that can be universal redemption and tells making of white being with all gender correlates determines the jurisprudence that coordinates the conquest of permanence who are carrying feeling and subjectivity in this imagination the pretense for categorical rather than fleeting inclusion of apartheid humanity happening in the US is an internal debate over the relative violence of white humanity that offers humanitarian favors and accusations of backwardness. When such humanitarianism is rejected, when the representatives of white humanity extend the helping hand, there must be militant opposition, reject the invitation, and the alternative is a call to say that the weapon that ignites militant opposition by accepting the honorable inheritance of the anti-civilizational that is always blooming in the undercommons. Trans politics must compound upon the sense of the black radical tradition, refusing the insidious logics that's building up in favor of a more radical politics that seems to Scatterson also says with us only this refusal of an invitation to debate can actualize the political space for alternatives to the white international form. That's Larson 23. The deaths of trans women of color, black trans women in specific circulating raw material for respectable trans objectifications and symbiotic empire, border fortification, capitalism, incarceration of war, attempted necropolitics, trans politics against, and necropolitical form is going to offer pertinent to ruthlessly integrate choices offered by modernity, restraint and radical imagination. The naturalism demands these debates are occurring in debated across points of black and trans scholarship compounding interventions to build off of one another to generate affinities using debate the ground to hash out disagreements and organizing and alternative horizons of engagement and call into questions ourselves, refusing necropolitical solutions opens space for political space for alternatives to Excel debate is a practice lessons from rounds do not spill out, they seep and scatter, and also stay with us not. Blood scholars must study the black radical tradition to stabilize transcompatibility with paradigms of safety, security, and stasis alternatives bloom in the undercommons and satiate shared dissonance and downweb that facilitates collective care planning, proliferates spaces indebted to Louisville gathered to overturn the violent arrangements of power in and out of the activity. Some participants and prefer instead to cooperate with the institutional grounds of civic engagement. Liberal form is predetermined truths that the conditions require inventive, subversive practices developed by black competitors and coaches and proliferated in critical trajectories, but not black trans scholars must compound upon and with black intellectualism to attend to our dead invitation to transform how we theorize in that trans political struggle and live. We should not accept sacrifice of segments of our communities to secure lives of others. We have to fashion new blueprints and imagine futures made invisible and rendered impossible. Refusal is an unending project. I'm gonna go back to that card that I cut, that I marked. I carded that defend the population from collective risk, right? Okay, collective risk. The subject is a species not only in the present but also in the future nuclear world that kills 99% and another that kills 100% is not really a tiny fraction. There's a I wrote this book actually. Protect could be used to justify inflicting suffering in the name of protecting the future of humanity. That's where I caught it, right?
Sure.
Okay. While there was focus on risk posed by nukes, there was little attention to the social political structures that shape the technologies. They are used in the field to steer differential catastrophes, uneven consequences of extinction across space. In time or flood, there is no acknowledgement the end of the world has already happened, just as the social causes of catastrophe are steer the social relations of the future. Leave structures of the present untouched, bound up with a man of Western reason associated with violence in relation to race, disability, gender, and sexuality. Okay, we're good. I'll mute my thing, and then you can unmute.
Okay.
Yep.
You said you were ready?
Yep.
Is the alternative conditional?
No, we think we should refuse the 1AC. The judges should refuse the 1AC.
Okay. What is debt?
Yeah, the vote evidence talks about indebtedness to the black radical tradition as a condition of debate, i.e. everyone is indebted to the black radical tradition of debate because it seeps through the ways that we are able to engage in debate. The alternative as a politic says that indebtedness or indebted politics are necessary to challenge the necropolitical solutions to empire offered by the internal debate, and that rejecting the invitation of that debate is necessary to open up the politics that bloom in the undercommons.
What does it mean to reject the invitation to debate?
Yeah, the Rodriguez evidence says that debates over the relative violence of white humanity operate as the internal debate, and that rejecting that internal debate of empire is good. I.e., the 1AC negotiates violence within the frame that empire is inevitable, right? Like, what can we do to make empire the least bad? Our argument is that empire is always bad and must be rejected.
The alt, would it be fiated?
What do you mean by that?
Jameson, you asked me to ask, what do you mean by that?
I mean, does the ballot actualize any, like, are you pretending as if the ballot actualizes any sort of change, or is it
I
like
think
the
that
ballot
you're
specifies
trying
change
to
in the
apply.
debate space?
I think you're trying to apply the words of the app to the alternative,
Yes.
which doesn't make much sense in this context.
Sure.
Because we've made an argument about not that fiat in the sense that fiat makes the alternative happen, because obviously alternatives are blooming in the undercommons, but we made like sort of a trade-off argument that that engagement with the internal debate is what disallows for alternatives to bloom in the undercommons. The fact that we had to engage with your affirmative, we think, which is a violent piece of scholarship, is bad.
You said, talking about blooming in the undercommons, can you just tell me what the undercommons is?
Yeah, so the undercommons, well, Bo was talking about the undercommons in the context of debate and indebtedness, right? Bo is like sort of analyzing the history of debate from Louisville to sort of the other ways that Black radical tradition has been taken up in debate, and saying that the politics that are forwarded by that model of debate, one in which trans studies, Black studies, and the forms of debate that come from those are ones that compound and generate on each other through meaningful engagement that produce a politics that is good.
Where transness and Blackness are meaningful in their participation.
I wanted to ask about the, like, you said through meaningful engagement. Can you expound on how they've been able to like build on each other through the process of debating?
Yeah, for sure. I think that there's a lot of examples of this. For example, the way I think it's evident in the way I debate, the way I've learned how to debate, in the way that sort of when debt compounds on each other, when we learn from other debaters, when we learn from that archive of debate, it produces politics through that clash and engagement that is good.
Okay. I want to ask the 1AC. We've talked about like it repackages anti-nuclearism. What about the 1AC is a repackaging of that?
Yeah, I think 1AC Crossix is great on this question. First of all, I mean, flat out, like the 1AC leaves bombers intact, that's probably bad, but also that will make arguments about why the scholarship and why that politic is net worse than the status quo.
Who's that? Yeah. Well, here, actually, you stay unmuted. I'm switching to my own AirPods.
Why?
Oh, I guess it's a thing easier.
Yeah, why would you change anything?
I don't know. Okay, Matt, can you only hear me once now? Does it sound fine? No, why are you still muted?
You unmute.
No, you unmute because I have your AirPod. Matt, can you hear me all right? Okay, yeah.
Matt said no.
Yeah.
Matt.
Told you the AirPod won't work.
If you just unmuted through your computer speaker, it would have worked.
Oh, okay, that's just what you wanted to do.
No.
I don't know what you're saying. Okay, Matt, can you hear me now? Sweet. Not bad. Break in my timer. Cool. Is everyone good for an order?
Yeah.
Case.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
The new flow. No, okay. Is anyone not ready?
I'm good, Spencer, you good?
Matt, you good? Sweet. Okay. MERS make extinction inevitable. U.S. development deployment of MERS drives MERS proliferation that increases the danger of nuclear destruction. 3 reasons. First, increases the accuracy and structure flexibility of nuclear missile attacks. Warheads can take out multiple targets and ensures that the U.S. is going to utilize that to continue a campaign of dominance against the world. The second is that increased chances of first strike and MERS capabilities imply that states can have a nuclear arsenal as a first strike. McDonald 14 is incredibly specific value. Increases use of elusive pressures and dismantling and disarming a nuclear first strike. And 3 is that MERS destroy arms, stock confuse exits, threat, vertical proliferation kills any chance of U.S. Further U.S. nuclear reductions. Even one nuclear launch causes fallout, social collapse, famine, and breakdown of planetary biosphere. Only 30% of the sun that would reach the surface and human population would be able to sustain fell test line 22 evidence. Now is key because MERS being developed in ICBMs with remote sensing and allow the country to be able to see the location of nuclear substance. I'm going to move on to the their arguments proper, line by line. First is that the role of the judge to determine whether the fiat application of the player desirable compared to competitive alternative begins to be the whole effort regardless of prior cuts to the case so unique to solely against links in the plan and anything else cares fairness classes independently impacts its game debate is game which makes competitive incentives for research unique and procedural fairness of prior question. The scenario planning is good because large scale material binds collective policy making decisions ensures implementation enforceable societal level. That's the bag evidence. Look at specifics on each case is necessary to create strategies. The broader context of each situation plan focus is necessary to phrase political differences and solutions and to find the perfect middle ground for effective and durable change to avoid disasters like U.S. involvement in Middle East and Latin America. And next is that debate is imperfect as our interpretation can harness the goals of education to understand that law, strategic reversibility, and pair with little survival skills that help us navigate contest violent structures as most possible, determine for debate is meaningful social structure and political agitation for social justice, Arch 18. Streets overwhelmed by injustice may surrender to hopeless and inaction because they cannot envision a path from injustice to justice, complexities, integrated real belly style, lowering working and other executing advocacy, help build a coalition, and include organization, capital, and challenges enforcement, interdisciplinary collaboration, policy reform, community organization as to proceed together the NACP building cooperative advocacy campaigns that challenge racial and economic injustice and need to re-embrace and update the concept of integrated advocacy and despair about the enormity of the fight for justice and compromise ability to tackle injustice and experience challenging the system, the problems, success rates, acceptance, down speeds, and produce powerful scars like can be broke down at least a faith learning to combat savvy legal analysis, broader engagement, and deeper understanding of the complexity of problems, envisioning alternatives to future that lead to real solutions and for its movement, strategic use of litigation, generally the building blocks is systematic change, opportunities to bring a set of issues and experiences to the classroom, breaking environmental equality, not inherited social justice, advocacy, all these skepticism of law and litigation continues and imperfect and indispensable strategy. Lawyers should recreate problems by translating people's anger into action. Advocates can be careful about one-size-fits-all models. In case always in terms of first we read that card the money, but this 3014 evidence is really good about talking about extinction should be prioritized because even if it does lead to extinction, it's mass violence on whole. It only leads to justifying by political regimes that exercise the power of death to justify what they do in the name of avoiding a larger extinction impact. And I'm going to move on to the war outweighs and range of structural violence. We're going to 12. No conditions in themselves act military war causes inequality and scarcity is essential for them. War is a product of capitalism, imperialism, gender, and native aggression, or any other single issue. Rather, was a field of sustained injustice and one is escape war will after resources devoted to a problem that economic injustice, poor health, and environmental destruction, which war exacerbates. And those who want to see the world make a better, make it abolishing wars are our priority because peace brings other challenges. If you want justice, work for peace. And on to the first step, perm do the app and the all case and the impact framing is in that benefit and perm endorse the alternative, but do not reject the app. Reaching and focusing on strategic ability helps to break down the binary choice between war and deterrence, impacts and other options surrounding nuclear weapons and activism and VCDNP 22. Challenges in nuclear policy affect everyone, which should include the perspectives as possible, exclusion, lead harmful consequences, damaging effect to marginalized people, and should explain the origins of queer theory, respected nuclear weapons, and how queer people come to play a leading role, disarming, challenging dominant narratives, encouraging questions about who benefits, queer theory to break down binary choices such as nuclear war, nuclear deterrence, in fact, whether options are excluded, and force as societal changes be coupled with legal change. Societal change can never take a lasting hold without legal. I'm potentially going to skip that card, but link turn the act elimination of the nuclear triad engages in anti-necropolitic action that refuses the state's ability to modernize the nuclear arsenal in ways that enter specific targeting of cities while using the justification of a safer natural nuclear strike in order to protect the white nuclear family and working to end nuclear fear and destruction is the only way to end economic barrier in 23. Cross-movement solidarity is never easy when around this and not cause another call to abolish nuclear weapons sounds like a distraction from other pressing concerns. We to mean kill everyone, everything comes out as condescending, simplistic, we're all common activists now because we don't care about the future of human life and progressives all stripes. They don't have to jump or anything to abolish nukes, but we do need all platforms to keep the spotlight. Nuclear stockpile have to unite behind getting the U.S. ban use breaking Gorbachev to close by the 1980s peace movement and go both and whoever knows willing to take in the first big those are public pressures like economic brain inability, catastrophe on massive scales like economic dangerous decision makers, language of mass annihilation because sanitized conditions created by nuclear war, decisive death power, anti-nuclear movement, constant breath order, participants, anti-nuclear movement, international building relations with the community, hit artists, application of voices put the human face, mushroom conduct under the abstraction, and nuclear talk in reality, work to make nuclear changes, concrete rally around 1 million people, Central Park not have ability to assert their interpreting and Gorbachev to negotiate kill indigenous activists that carried out for decades efforts against the nuclear industry. The fact that Russia invaded Ukraine twice undermines the logic of nuclear peace. Anyone wasn't thinking about the future of anti-nuclear, we can ask them for communities to invest in nuclear weapon manufacturers. We can industries we did it once, we can't do it again. We have to. And also, I'm going to skip. No, actually, ontological focus that pre-lucrative change are meaningless in terms of the case. First of all, truth, the T claims over the affirmative cross board 15. The real problem with moral ontology is applied as the nuclear uncertainty, universality, the term life and rationality returns to the assertion of the universality, true philosophy, comparison, investigation, and it must be now ontological. I am at a loss of what it means to be assumed too often to refer to a claim to understand the universal essence of the sum of none and such appeals as in the conversation that I turned to ontology and evil theorists and simply without much debate or judgment. Magically, ontology is taken to simply diagnose Greek conditions down to the context of one is interested in ontology regards empirical work and moving on the universal concrete. The challenge is easily displaced by the claim that universal is being derived from the particular and on the line by line proper and their link cards. First, the 116, which we're going to link to the absolute elimination of the I did that at the top, but it's mostly about the safe how the U.S. phrases its nuclear strike and conventional strikes as safer nuclear and conventional strike tactics which allow them to predict their own. Entering the ISCO 22 card, that no link not engaging in expansion of the U.S. empire, it's a reduction in nuclear policy to force the U.S. to back off and reassess its impacts and ensure the bonding grant stuff. We do not involve disarmament, anti-civil grade disarm campaigns or key to actualize a larger change, only app works towards that. This is the tangible 19 evidence, which is fantastic. Talking about the planned short-term restraints, prerequisites, all Thompson interests like Dell, plain singles, U.S. movement, and global restraint, nuclear restraint that solves for nuclear war, which also, but it doesn't get trapped in, it isn't like the, unlike the alt, does not get trapped in the United States' attempt to suppress it. Is also a state of accountability for nuclear actors because it's a prerequisite for deconstructing nuclearism because no one mechanism to keep reactors to check themselves, which also their links down on the Atchison stuff. First, the program card I read also says Atchison improves that Atchison advocates for nuclear restraint on as a whole, so long for winning that we're some measure of nuclear restraint. That's probably a good thing. And second is that the app is not an arms control agreement, it's a move towards disarming the U.S. nuclear arsenal. And next is that even if it is eluding the fast weapon bans, prove the demotes to execute underground security Williams 20. National security, what does it mean? And the use to good if it wants, or am I right? If U.S. invade other countries, if it wants to, we need to know. National security, we all have the responsibility, pay attention, to refuse to accept the world the way it is, not utopian understanding, with literally landmines about the nuclear weapons out of our model came to humanitarian disarmament, taking arguments away from security and deterrence, saying we're all about millions of beings that can destroy it at and we refuse to accept this, dragging nuclear states into the real work. Nothing is inevitable unless you do utopian rules, helping man laser minds and cluster bombs at all since the 1995. And on to the alt proper. First is that pragmatism has often changed in within the combined the brutal and corrupt systems at the present, but it doesn't serve to create institutional change or reforms that create large-scale structural change. And that's 1120 evidence, which specifically talks about, gives examples of women's suffrage, civil rights reforms, gay marriage, indigenous legal demands, and labor protection. Shows that fights within the state are necessary to create revolutionary tradition, articulating the reform as separate from the state, from the state, articulating reform and revolution as separate only makes it easier for the state to undercut the work and end social transformation and refusals and critique of the past and present, but is lacking institutional program for the future study. Corey 22. Strategies refuse after losing dilemma is what builds something new or refer to unintended authors and software to build on critiques of security study. The first question would be, what is object of study? How is it study? What is the purpose of institutional strategy? It would require concerning our outlet structures and circular to aim for the related other disciplines, backfires, succeeding grounded stronger disciplines, and relying on rebuilding it. Political control is no longer a threat. Crisis disarmament state. No. I'm going to read the next card, which says political and state control is inevitable. Right? Oh, 8. My power is here to stay. It gives the focus on preservation of the population. I know was a problem that it never returned. And I'm going to skip the bog card. Oh, that's the last one. No, I like that one. Violence is inevitable outcome and liberal sovereignty outcomes. They account as self-fulfilling and cease in political work. 17. The genealogical ontology of violence is one option. Subjugation, domination, and combat are all found elsewhere. They look for strategies of domination, always tending to violence. Violence and domination is the foundation of human condition, relies on ontological focus, where positive to arbitrary and violently related. The genealogical ethos for global introduction may prior substitute instead of seeking to engage in careful empirical consideration. The merits of form and intervention in each case generalized genealogical suspicion shuts down any other understanding. Yeah, 2 seconds.
Okay. Is your volume on?
Yes, volume is off.
Okay. Can you hear me all right? No echo or anything? Okay, perfect. Is everyone here good? Okay. The third impact on case was like something like one launch kills the environment or something like that, but I didn't catch the, like, one launch does what? I just didn't catch the...
Yeah, it's just like one nuclear launch causes fallout, social collapse, famine, breakdown of planetary
Okay,
tides.
what's the internal link between one launch and all of those things?
We think the line in this card specifically talks about how one nuclear launch collapses the biosphere, which leads to all those things.
Okay, why does it collapse the biosphere?
Well, the science behind it is just that a nuclear launch makes it so that 1, the sun is blocked, 2, that the radioactive fallout ensures that that sunlight can't reach, which causes famine, leads to societal collapse.
Okay, that's cool. The Berrigan card that you read on the link turn, what is psychic numbing?
Psychic numbing is the process in which the United States uses its nuclear arsenal, its full nuclear arsenal, to numb people to the weapons, to the effect of nuclear weapons on a whole.
What is the cause of psychic numbing? I just didn't understand the internal link at the beginning of that.
The internal link is that the U.S. has nuclear weapons and has not made any steps to restrain them. Because of that, people see nuclear weapons as an inevitability, a part of life.
Okay, because the U.S. has nuclear weapons, psychic numbing occurs. That's great. The Williams evidence that you read on the Atchison link. Yeah, sorry. The Williams evidence that you read on the Atchison link. What is sanity? It says it's not utopian. It's just sanity. What is sanity?
We think Williams is.
You not only highlighted it, I think you probably made it bigger too.
Yeah.
What is it?
We think sanity in Williams' eyes is like what Williams defines as not utopian.
Okay, what does that mean?
Williams is creating a dichotomy between utopian society and what he deems society, which legal
Remember,
institution.
just to remember that
yeah,
one.
can you explain really quick for me what that means in the context of the app? Like, what does it mean for utopian society? Or
Yeah, this is the
non-utopian society?
don't reject reform, be
Reform.
revolution.
Okay, so
topics.
things that are not reform are insane,
No.
is your argument.
No.
The alternative, why is gay marriage a part of the revolutionary tradition that you named? What is the revolutionary tradition?
Yeah, so we think on the alternative, we're making specific claims about legal change. 1121 evidence is very specific about how legal change and change within the state has forced the state to make concessions that they wouldn't otherwise have.
Okay,
Should-
I guess
should play the
to be
possibility.
more specific, like what
Yes.
is the revolutionary tradition? That was the phrase that you used.
Revolutionary tradition, Leaving 21 defines revolutionary tradition as the ability for activists to work within and outside the state to force the state to make
What
demands.
makes
That's the tradition. That
What makes that tradition revolutionary?
One, we think the state has refused to make certain conditions and that these
Correct.
revolutionaries have imposed it upon them.
Imposed, what does that mean?
Well, they have forced the state and politicians to do it, despite them not wanting to.
Who is like them? Like, I'm just trying to understand what tradition you're
What
referencing.
activists
Yeah, sure.
specifically? I think the card mentions Native Nations Rise. I think other movements, women's suffrage is very specific about. I don't think the card we have actually mentions the others, but I'm sure the article does.
Okay, that's fine.
Black Caucus.
Yeah, we're taking part.
Yeah. That was Caucus, okay.
We're gonna start us off.
Okay, stop time, 6:22. Not to stop time at 6:22. I'm setting the order is the K. The K will not include framework, really also. Or rather, I suppose it's case station.
Okay, so if I float everything on case,
It's gonna
The
be
first-
case, but framework and alt will be in the one.
That's, yeah.
So,
okay.
whatever that
means
for your flow.
I would say, and I will be honest about it, I would say that the overview needs a new page. I will be honest about that one, because,
We're gonna hear the taste of good things,
Okay,
and that's what's gonna
that's
come
okay.
yeah.
That's where I'm happy.
Unfolded flow somewhere.
There's no dog.
There's a dog inside. I talked about like samples, right? Overview is like low-key 130.
Not the time.
I know.
Exact time.
The amount of times I timed this out, like, you don't know how many practice I did this fucking tournament. Okay. Anyone not ready?
Sorry, I just got the.
Okay. Take your time. Okay. Melanie, you good?
Yep.
Okay. And you're good. And Matt, you're good? Okay. Perfect. We are living in a global civil war, maintained and concealed by the internal debate that they have invited you to participate in. Rodriguez says the internal debate proliferates through everyday investments into its logics, like deep engagement with reform in this round, which limits our political rights to modulate but never end the relative balance of white humanity. The one he compels us to uphold the internal debate by rehashing the non-unique terms of nuclear policymaking that has driven dozens of attempts at failed arms control agreements since the 50s, which have each sanitized the U.S.'s image and covered its genocidal tracks domestically and internationally, which is the one he actually called. The internal debate runs on an exchange economy of violence. It's like it calls trans-sector politics. Not everybody can access the good life, reap the benefits of reform, and embody the good citizen, because some are to stress for the future of white ancestral life and civilization. Therefore, black, brown, and colonized and trans deaths are exchanged in order to continue white ancestral lives. The world that they want to stabilize is a world of escalating war. Trans children are literally killed by their peers in schools as anti-trans lawfare colludes with white supremacist militias and other fascist resurgence, exploiting ever-growing levels of environmental collapse and economic work precarity, which ensures that extinction is inevitable, because we are literally willing to destroy the planet to preserve white futures. Reform makes this warfare inevitable by standing in for a more radical politics that could escape it, like the one I see invokes disarm as a empty floating signifier to justify, and also invokes people like Angela Davis who would disagree with the plan to spin it as radical. That alongside claims that the state is inevitable and we must engage politics is how insurgent energy of the slaughter trans like Ariana Mitchell gets all alchemized into reformist debates over whether trans people deserve access to bathrooms or name changes, racialized and gender domestic war waged by reform prefigures international politics because it coheres the nations and international actors. So our impact control. There's the internal debate is the theory of power that impact terms engage in ticky-tacky of their plan like they want us to in this debate, because it is dangerous for us to put trans politics into impact packages that conveniently weighed and calculated against extinction. It lets them weigh the costs and benefits of birth reduction inside a rigged system which rationalizes the equitable exchange economies that cohere a world of reduced nuclear weapons. Remember, your ballot cannot intervene in the internal debate of nuclear policy making to stop extinction, but it can join with our refusal to use this space to perfect reforms or bans. Voting negative to take sleep in the intersection of black and trans studies. It inclines our time to look horizons in this debate towards a world that does not require sacrifice via reform and destabilize the political grounds of this war by teaching us that what is assigned does not have to be accepted now. The first argument on the flow in this case outweighs the word is extinction, but we have a link to the way that they have mapped and calculated extinction, so you can extend the 1C data piece of evidence here. It aggregates life across populations which anesthetizes us the ongoing realities of genocide that are produced by the form of empire and obscures the forms of war that they make inevitable, which is why they read the second card about how war would be really violent, but it begs the question of what is war, which the overview explained. Extinction precedence on a spectacular moment of nuclear explosion. It is a slow and ongoing process that happens every time radical political alternatives that could overturn a world that might have nuclear weapons in the first place are foreclosed. They know this. It is why they're so comfortable advocating for the affirmative, even though we have one reasons why it is unethical to do so. Whether they will not deny that the plan requires genocide. Instead, they will invisibilize those costs by saying things like extinction outweighs. No, extinction outweighs should fucking disgust you. It shows that they are willing to sacrifice black and trans lives in low-stakes places like debate, which filters how they actualize politics and use the skills that are derived from their model. Every time they say extinction outweighs, remember that we have read a critique of the logic of comparison as necropolitical. It's also non-responsive to decay because it's not inevitable. They only are rewarded for their investments in extinction if you plan their terms by letting them fiat the act. If you do, that says that you think we should use debates to tinker with a world where black and trans lives are disposable instead of voting negative to engage in politics that can edit, which is an independent reason to vote negative on extinction outweighs because the act is a deliberate calculation on whose lives matter and how they come to matter, i.e. only through possibility of inclusion into the state, which is a professionalization link that I will do below. Now the permutation, I will do it here. One, we have impact on the permutation because clash over whether arms control agreements would be good is what is bad. No permutation can solve because all of them include debate over it. Second, the perm fails. It narrows demands into a professionalized frame of abolition that locks in violence. Madison to be seen as credible demands and narrowed institutional goals. The centrist was the centrist can easily more conservative incrementalist partisan on organizational imperatives over change performance and these celebrities progress is that kind of self-referential legislative actions that may commit people so entrapped in them. These de-skilled business at the halls of power challenge business as usual reform will not suit the plan which answers their arguments about Ashton because it proves that Ashton is not saying disarm is good. It's saying that the terms of policies that refuse reform and lots of solutions to career studies might be good, which answers their CDNP 22 card. Third is necropolitics. It's that the process of framing radical demands through reform creates a bifurcation of revolutionary majesty into respectable and disrespectful subjects. Think about how transfer demands for trans liberation become alchemized into demands for trans inclusion in the military and then celebrated, which is the logic of reform is always good and never mutually exclusive, which is just wrong. Fourth, all links are decides when you didn't answer them, they were conceded offense, and therefore you cannot grant them permutation. Fifth is a self-serving decide. It's not a theoretical claim, it's a substantive one because the one is Rodriguez piece of evidence makes a claim about how grifters and opportunists build their brand by making commitments to abolition as a self-serving public identity because it will afford them access to professional social capital, which is how the 1AC pushes through questions pushes through politics that could shore up the bounds of empire at the expense of getting rid of them. Now the link turn now drop down to the link turn. They said the app eliminates the triad. No, this is the most shallow link turn I have heard in a while. I'm going to do. We've impact turned their arguments about psychic numbing because they have drummed up fears around the impetus to secure a future. So you can cross by the record from the station lane above here. You should filter this through our thesis claim that they make life for some at the expense of death for others. Think about how the ending of psychic numbing has empirically worked in the context of protecting the nation. Calls for sentences to raid their guard have played out via things like increase in anti-Asian hate crimes with COVID, extreme Islamophobia in response to 9/11, the lavender scare and the black scare that accompanied the Cold War and the Red Scare, which is all evidence that why their epistemology is bad, even if they win it ends psychic numbing because the ways in which they channel that anxiety produce necropolitical solutions that also make us seek things like vigilante justice. Now the ontology about it, don't understand why this turns decay. I'm not sure how this card is using the word ontology. It's critiquing Marxism. I don't necessarily know that is a frame that we have endorsed. Instead, we are winning in the thesis claim about the internal debate and about the cost of reform, which means that we do not have to win that every reform ever has been bad in and of itself, but rather that reform is taken up to produce more violence and justify necropolitical violence against those who refuse the terms of reform in the first place. Now the bond gram evidence. I will do the professionalization link here. Nuclear states to reproduce imperial violences through a veneer of ethicality. The 1AC has performed biblical conclusion through translating radical demands for a world that could not have nukes into the disciplining counterinsurgency of the internal debate, which reproduces necropolitical violence. This turns case because the AF licenses anti-nuclear inventions that don't follow logic. For example, Al-Marashi studied Iraqi politics, concluded Iraq had no WMDs, but was twisted by actors in the internal debate compound to say it did, and justified decades of war in Iraq to get rid of WMDs that never existed. That war fomented major regional instability, which proves the internal debate fabricates the conditions that make things like nuclear war inevitable. Second, the 1MC Bond Graham piece of evidence impact turns the authors that they rely on in order to justify their plan being good because it indicts the plowshares. This was a radical disarm group. They called for abolition of the culture of militarism and status nukes, just like the AFA claims to, but once they accepted Democratic Party donor funding and acceded to the terms of the internal debate, those politics were de-radicalized into calls for policies like NFU that's sustain the world as it is and have not even materialized decades later. But they do let them use abolition to clean their images while they support imperialist agendas like anti-nuclear intervention to prove the internal debate, evacuates the politics of conduct that could threaten its legitimacy and use to sustain itself. You should frame Mr. Lynn's extreme skepticism in light of when I see cross-sex. I have never heard a team like this go for an argument that disarm is like, they should have a reason why disarm is like worse than the status quo if they were not going to defend disarm. Like they don't even have an offensive reason why it's not good.
They are the plowshares and also super racist. The idea of somebody being quote, quote drunk or quote high, therefore unable to control the missiles, is the anti-black goggles of the 1C Bongrave evidence explicitly indicts this is what it looks like to bifurcate movements along lines of respectability. Because when I see Wilson says, it says things like, youth ICBMs did nothing to turn 9/11 distractions, so they have played no part in the war on terror. That realization takes a toll on the men when we were actually controlling their notions of deadliest weapons. And then they highlight the line, people who are drunk, high, and bored human beings are not about controlling nuclear weapons and missiles. When I see Story also proves like because the frame of when I see upholds movements like disability rights. When I see Story 21 says ICBM game will help the public engage looking to make other movements such as disability rights. The disability rights movement operates along the same lines of professionalization that use the logic of rescue corporation to justify paternalistic colonization to disabled people and produces eugenicist solutions touch them in Lashwitz 2020 reach less instruction to health and Madison biological inferiority improving the understanding of simulation of indigenous people's recovery from Madison representation of indigenous people's pathological serves to reconstitution pathology white cellulose and reaffirming that indigeneity and disability are undesirable. Mark the card undesirable. This is proven by rather they perform this link through the line in the Williams card that it is only sanity to accept nuclear reform. This is the dichotomy they draw on cross between utopian society and the affirmatives. The line I told you to remember in cross things that are not reform are marked as mad. It proves the professionalization line because those who refuse the terms of reform are understood as a need of correction which justifies a violent and incorporative logic. Finally, I will go. Finally, I will read the rehighlighting of the Levine piece of evidence that proves that they short the bounds of acceptable reform, be a lens of reproductive futurism that it eliminates the radical instantiation of queerness from society. And they say things like gay marriage is a great example of acceptable reform. Levine 21 says similarly, Shirley Wolf has argued for gay marriage. This is a conceded or cause statement about how they need inclusion into the nuclear family in order to engage in acceptable politics, whereas politics that might reject the nuclear family in the first place is not respectable because it's not incorporation into frames like marriage. I'm good for cross-sects.
Sweet. Okay. Cool. First, can you explain what an exchange economy is to me?
What?
What is an exchange economy? What does it look like
An
in nuclear
exchange
policy?
economy of violence happens when we treat lives in the way that the 1AC has, by aggregating across populations and making large-scale determinations about which sacrifices are acceptable sacrifices.
What sacrifice does the 1AC actively make?
Well, the 1AC has made a number of sacrifices. The first, I guess, is the concession. Anytime you say extinction outweighs, begs the question of what does extinction outweigh? The impact to decay is the ongoing genocidal war on black and trans life.
Okay, so that is the exchange the 1AC is making.
Yes, the
Cool.
1AC has conceded that they have made that exchange.
Cool.
Right?
Why does reform make violence inevitable? It's the same idea that working within the state just justifies extinction framing, which makes the same kind of trade-off. This sounds
No,
really bad.
the argument is that reforms are empirically uptaken to produce more violent policies. For example, the plowshares, example, right? Anti-nuclear interventions, things like Iraq. That might be a reason why the link turns case. But also, reforms are also uptaken in order to push off the kind of, maybe more importantly, the kind of politics that could challenge the system that produces that violence in the first place, which is our example about how revolutionary protests against murder of trans women become calls for well, what if we did?
The act restricts the ability for the United States to use its nuclear arsenal. How does that justify
The
anti-nuclear
thing that you have
things
done,
abroad?
the thing that you have done right now is exactly the way in which reformist policies get uptaken to paint themselves as radical and position themselves in opposition to solutions that might
Yeah, but that's not an indictment on the policy as a whole. You were just saying that policies like this have done no.
Yeah. The chart that I sent out proves that actually, well, Ryan, you might want to read it more explicitly in the one and explain it, but yeah. I mean
The SALT treaty stuff?
the
Different chart.
the salt trees.
Yeah, okay,
sure, we
cool.
can explain the chart. I mean
No, that's
sure.
fine. I'm gonna move on.
Okay.
Um,
You do actually want to do that one though.
actually, fuck it. Yeah, let's talk about the SALT chart.
Okay. This chart is a taxonomy of weapon systems that proves that MIRVs are just a way of attaching warheads to missiles.
Yes.
We can deliver a missile into its target in a number of ways. The 1AC leaves intact bombers, therefore those can be equipped.
Okay, so
with
the 1AC's
air-launched
exclusion of
ballistic
disarming
missiles.
bombers is
Okay,
what doesn't
it's not
make
just
this
it's
radical.
it's terminal presumption because you made an argument on case that one launch causes global devastation. Second, it proves our argument about how the AF makes itself look benevolent in order to continue empire because you've intentionally chosen to leave bombers intact so that the U.S. has strategic capability of launching nuclear weapons, specifically with MIRVs. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Cool.
the internal
talked about
interior
the one-
impacts is MIRVs. You talked in the other cross-acts about
talked
how
about-
one launch is sufficient, so.
Yeah, have you read any evidence that says bombers will be launched in any capacity or
Literally the chart.
chart doesn't?
I'm sending out. Oh wait, let me switch the audio. Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, I should turn on.
I'm sending out the one hour. It's framework and then the alternative.
Oh, yeah.
Let me know when everyone has it and is good to go. Good. Good. Matt, are you good? Okay, perfect. Our interpretation is to evaluate the 1EC as the intentional curation of scholarship in defense of the resolution, the role of the negatives to disprove the desirability of the project of curating and circulating the 1EC. You should refuse to give a decision that says framework was washed away by the applicants. That apologizes the terms of debate, prevent searching uses of the space and weaponizes the internal debate to undercut the radicality of decay. If we win, framework is both an independent office of the asked model of political education and means evaluating research projects is not about the plan's implementation, because that is the internal debate. We have impact turned to a burden of rejoinder of the question of the plan, which means they can win the applicant's good and you still vote negative because evaluated by political orientations are good, are a cloak for excusing the continuation of imperial policy, because they've already predetermined what limits of political possibility are set to coordinate how we use the skills and education we gain from debates about the plan to AC process and what the evidence proves, because they have said that any methods which aren't quote-unquote reform are insane. That scholarly gaslighting proves their impulse to foreclose radical possibility. It means that you should be highly skeptical of their supposedly ethical pursuit of nuclear policy when the two-air gets up in grand stands about why nukes are bad too. Pieces of offense versus the undercommons pedagogy dissent plan. Focus models intentionally erase the impact of scholarship on our politics, proven by the 1C got evidence there. It is materially violent, independent reason to reject the team and proves their framework argument that scholarship matters first. Warrants is that 1C causes God's work at Tel Aviv University, an institution which has expelled Palestinian scholars in defense of Israeli genocide in Palestine through congratulation of the IDF's exceptional functioning, literally supports ongoing genocide in Palestine. Second is the calculus of inherent biological and sexual drives to do war making or transphobic. That's 1DC. God 9. Appearances often accepted for demonic reproductive motives of the shooting several sides at the same point in modern society. Too, sexual adventure remained central to the individual motivation in going to war. This may be demonstrated by the effects of the sexual revolution since the 1960s, which by lessening the instruction of foreign adventure for recruits from far, increasing the instruction of staying at home, may have contributed to prevent society's growing aversion to war, honor status quo, and dominance and access to systematic and reproductive systems rather than compromising a large list of causes for war. All the above partaking in an interconnected human motivational system originally shaped by the calculus of survival and reproduction. And third is gender essentialism and depictions of indigenous people as pre-state authority. I can't even convey how bad this evidence is. That's 1C God 9. There's a fundamental asymmetry between males and females. The Inuit rate of violent deaths was estimated 1 per 1,000 persons per year, 10 times is the highest in the developed world. Among the continent of the Kalahari Desert, the harmless people, the rate of killing was 0.29 persons per 1,000 year. It has been 0.42 before the coming of the state authority. 3 to 4 times higher than the 1990 U.S. rate. The impact of genocide, they will say arbitrary picking in the one author doesn't disprove the F. Yes, it fucking does. You shouldn't send an arbitrary bar line of how much violent scholarship they can see because they told you to. Remember that necropolitics means the ascension of life for some is accompanied by the retraction of life for others, which results in the margins of nuclear base opens of spaces for insertion, pedagogy, and planning that can solve. Second piece of offense is the extortion to set fiat. It's about the inevitable 1 year strategy with extinction bill coming down. Only the assault is that true. It's inevitable because the ballot for Jamie you cannot resolve it, which is a unique question about debate. The two-air might say it's a question of what our education spills up to, but there was no warrant for spilling up to macropolitics. That means our argument about geopolitical unsustainability of empire shape orientation, because that sort of spill up is bad. Way the plan is self-serving because it moves 8 minutes and 55 seconds of offense, especially when they read reasons whether our theory and political education are good in the 1C. We should be able to impact right that. 2AC 1 procedural fairness is termed by both dissents above. B, it's inevitable. 9 off debate, tiny policy, execution, two ways versus all, create unfair debate. C, impact of fair professionalization comes first because the terms of fair debates are measured by prior dogmatic assumptions about what we should be debating about in the first place. 2AC 2's group is scenario planning, our evidence. This is the linker. Legal education scenario planning is bad and produces unethical people. The God highlights and above prove, as well as any risk of a link from the 2AC. The alternative, the internal debate of empire compels us to ask a certain a set of questions about the world, like how can we improve the logistics of the military-industrial complex, prove that JMU begins with the assumption global order is necessary to solve extinction because all life is equal value. D. Law tells you to make a choice to say dead pulls from histories of black debate and transmitting their mutual debt and collapses them into a claim that what's assigned does not have to be accepted. The bounds of the internal debate, the violent imposition of sex and gender onto our bodies, and the erasure of histories of debate, each to frame themselves as mandatory burden imperatives to refuse that assignation. 2AC1, no institutional change. The alters the question of generativity of black and trans scholarship, which means none of the defense they reach the alternative is applicable because the all explicitly refuses to engage in the internal debate in the first place, meaning we do not have to win. It does institutional change. The refusal of their project is the only method of solvency we have to win because as it ceases the means of intellectual production which are captured by the internal debate by refusing inclusion and participation in the first place. The examples of gay marriage prove our argument about imperial domesticity because the limits of their revolution tradition are homo-nationalist reform at best for white gay men that justifies institutional violence against non-white gay and trans populations while slapping the promise of legal change on the cover. Last two cards about refusal of the future are gone and returning them. The alternative involves a radical refusal and investment into a new ethical frame by forwarding a blueprint for living and dying outside the course of promise of liberalism like Sylvia Rivera, Marsha P. Johnson's promise to cross the river, join together, and a dead apology tells us that we can commune together and in doing so become communists and abolitionists because surviving is not about the number of individual lives we can save from extinction. It's about the revolutionary project that we rebuild collectively that carries over into tomorrow even after we are dead. Like Sylvia starting Transy House after Marsha's death motto after Star House. Only the alternative activates the latent potential of debates and meaning and proliferate the forms of trans black life through insurgency. This turns every argument issue era will go for about policy making skills and education because we have one that they swore violent skills via the framework of linked debate, but that there are valuable skills that we can cultivate through the alternative basis. That debates do not spill up, instead they stay with us because the affinities and solidarities we cultivate orient us outside of the space. For example, the claim that there is no alternative empire is how the internal debate maintains its hegemony because it requires we disavow our dead to people who proliferate alternatives every day. For example, in round 5 of the Indiana tournament when we were off against Baylor, reading an Africa about capitalist accumulation of nuclear forces, and they read a about Palestine, which led to a debate about the exportability of our taxes to material demands made by Palestinians and the intricacies of resource distribution and certain tactics that lead us towards research around Palestinian liberation. Around 3 of the Long Beach tournament when we were off against Dartmouth, we read a zine about the nuclear family, and Dartmouth read a case of phenomenology that challenged our theorization of the nuclear family by indicting the functioning of our method. In that sense, they indicts a project that confronts empire's internal debate by refusing to accept low reform is the best outcome of our time together by shattering logic that there is no alternative to empire. The disembodied politics would ask you to suspend the relationship to this tournament to become an endorsement for hypothetical reform, but we are winning that instead of the endpoint of reform, we should dream bigger by daring to imagine futures made invisible by the project of fiat.
10, turn now.
What's that, Jameson?
610.
610 left. I have no document. Okay, the order is gonna be, I'm gonna talk about my stuff for a little bit on case, and then I'm gonna go to the overview, and then I'm gonna come back and answer everything else straight down.
Beautiful.
That was great. You guys say it all again because you want to mute it.
Oh, dude, that's a good point. Hey, I just gave the order. Are you ready for it again? Yeah, okay, so case, I'm gonna talk about my stuff for really short, and then I'll go to the overview and answer that, and then I'll come back and it'll just be straight down. Alright. Is anybody not ready? Cool, I'll start in a few seconds unless I hear anything else.
MIRVs are existential. They've dropped U.S. development deployment is increasing in ICBM this hub, which drives global proliferation of MIRVs, which destroys strategic stability, ensures nuclear extinction, to collapse society, famine runs rampant, biosphere and environment destroyed, etc. All culminating in extinction. Elimination is key. MIRVs, which increase strike accuracy and flexibility. Single warheads take out multiple targets. They enter a first strike, which means you sort of lose pressures, destroy arms control, toxins, try or die after remote sensing, allowing other countries to be able to see the location of general nuclear arms start to make experimentally strike and take out MIRVs. Plus, they are being loaded to ICBMs now or very soon, causing prolif and destabilizing general global postures. The overview filter, their unique disclaim through MIRVs. Their arm control agreements and other things failing are because of the state's imposition of MIRVs and inability or unwillingness to work in other framing. The environment impact, no, you can support it. They didn't explain it terminal. They just said the environment you should strike it. Then links for mission are bad or not. A link of co-mission. Their links are scripted to state violence and the status quo. No reason that getting rid of MIRVs or reading of the one creates more state violence or reveals self rollback and sort of backlash arguments, which you can crossify below. But even if they're right, you cannot explain imminent nuclear war scenario absent the afterwings case. Still outweighs human nature, especially by struggle, survival, competition with each other, which invalidates the totalizing theory of not only the world but how conflict operates, because the overwhelming nature of convergence can participate in war. It's try or die after winning and weighing it versus decay. The bottom of the overview is about clash. If we win, there's no clash under their model. That means they can't solve their intersectional improvements because we can never prepare for those discussions. Now, case comes first. Any risk we solve, the most immediate existential risk via slow violence or nuclear catastrophe, resolvable large approximate cause of violence means vote acts underestimates or overcorrect their ass. Second, always prioritizing probability makes extinction of mass violence inevitable, which turns decay and outweighs. Third, works in the hierarchy evidence or extraction of extinction level threats, not hierarchical value claim about which violence levels more or less instead of makes visible other forms of violence. They don't assume the way that we're defending our impacts, i.e. radiation, poisoning, famine, drought, painful burns, etc., all happened in a world of increased proliferation and nuclear war, while there is increased mining and testing of nuclear materials, as we have to increase the amount of warheads we're able to deploy on the MIRVs capabilities, which means things like radiation, all increased disparate access to food and water, which all disproportionately impacts certain groups and makes massively exacerbate structural violence, which means we can solve some of their offense, but they can't solve some of their ours. The hoarding card system crowds, inequality and scarcity would make the economic and injustice health issues worse during wartime, which is only a risk. It supercharges the impacts that they're talking about permutation to the app, and then the alt case and extinction is the net benefit. None of their offense is in the context of this perm, which creates their offense plus theories of reason to reject the Argonaut. Separate and restrictions to include both the app and K. Don't add anything with a risk of a link turn or defense, then do both solves and overcomes their offense, or do the app and the alt overcomes and solves their offense if it overcomes the squo. Two framing arguments. First, they have to win links to the permutation, not the plan, because that's what we're advocating for and what the judges will be voting on. Second, links of omission are bad. That was the thing that I said would be cross-applied below, cross-apply it here. The incrementalism, stuff about tandem walls, short-term nuclear restrictions are key. It's not a gesture to disarm, but rather successful telos movements toward disarm because they avoid short-term nuclear war, which otherwise would kill movements to desecuritize and geologize the role of insecurity into the barrack and everything. This is a psychic dummy just said. Well, we have no discussion of nuclear war impacts, and we have the threat of MIRVs being used. There was only a risk that psychic dumping means that groups aren't able to organize now because they become disincentivized as they realize, because they become disincentivized. The Bongram link doesn't expect them our methods are bad, rather just our research others indict of our research, but group all their author indicts were utilizing scholarship to create a research project that forced them to reject parts of the sale while still making it seem desirable to pro-state bureaucrats. Ray Jameson did this in the 2 scenes. Flip talks about how that can make negative state actions seem desirable policymakers, but also works to undercut the ability to institutionalize biopolitical control. Also, we obviously didn't know about the GATT thing, or we wouldn't have read it. We won't read it in a future round, so voting us down doesn't materially change anything. Their links are non-unique. Filter them. Versus the link turn that says the 1AC elimination of subs and ICBMs engage anti-necropolitical action because it refuses the state's ability to modernize nuclear arsenal to enable specific targeting of cities and populations because MERS allows multiple warheads to strike targets simultaneously under justification of safer strikes to protect a white nuclear family. Now, go to framework. Weight the applicants' links to the planned fiat implications, key to clash of fairness to modelize and critiques of the 1AC allows any and all links to things like underlined parts of our cards that don't disapprove the 1AC because they didn't prove the value in our quote object of research that nullifies the consequences of the plan, which Deck's ability to engage in critique and loss of a dogmatic system that outweighs. In terms of undercoming pedagogy, gets sad, it says that political forms of IR institutions just they thrive off the lack of clash and become normalized via society accepting their monolith. It also kills fairness via witting damage to the 1AC and eliminating all of our grounds. Intrinsic aspects of debate is a game, they abide by sheet. Speech times use cross-nuclear advantage and flip cards and procedural fairness is good and should be preserved that turns all their office massively heightened social disparities and pushes debaters out free of burnout for an unlimited topic impossible. Burden unfairness is not inevitable. Doing things like preparing could mean you'd be able to answer 9 offs just because other people have different resources doesn't mean you can prepare for them definite but competitive and sex and structured debate, answering line by line street parts and calling arguments dropped all proof Iowa is just an invested of them, even if they're winning, then our assumptions are better than political IR. They have not met the burden of proof to articulate how those disprove the consequences of the winning, which we should undoubtedly weigh the aft as the offense they go to. Scenario planning is independent offense as a plan focused on to press out solutions to find the middle ground for effective durable change to avoid disaster like US involvement. In the Middle East or Latin America, they drop large scale violence, collective policy decisions, ensure implementation enforcement of the societal levels only on model analysis can improve. Via the skills of policy implementation, Archer 18 was also dropped as students to harness legal and state education instead of law street reformability paired with survival skills and helps to navigate constant bias. That policy reform community organization must proceed together. The NAACP building advocacy campaigns to challenge radical economic injustice and re-embrace and update the concept of integrated society. The challenge systemic problems, advocacy how the health, skepticism about the law, but advocacy work to get strategies about knowing those flaws and weaponizing. Also, Berrigan that makes another warrant that says understanding nuclear violence. Reagan and Gorbachev's negotiating table, which proves that our education does fill up. The alt, no shot. It solves the average of all scenarios and the extinction outweighs debate massive disaster alternative which triply outweighs the risk of the link, even if it 100% risk of the alt. The Nicholson evidence says that moving on IR is just a probabilistic as vision set up within the dust of their unflinching ethical stance borrows intellectual resources against theoretical art to think a new world order, double mind their notion of exclusion tautologically leads to relative counter critical argues no tools to counter it because popular use justification screws like Proud Boys and Trump takes out all solvency. The Levine evidence pragmatism is often charged with finding within their brutal competence of the present. It does start to create institutional change and reforms that change at large scale structural capacities.
622.
Matt's saying something. Does anyone have their volume on?
I'll turn it on.
I can hear you now.
I'm gonna go and stretch.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, restarting at 6.
Yeah.
is your like automatic?
I think so, I'll check. Yeah, we're both good, right? Yeah.
Okay, Matt, are you there? Oh, I see you, rather, but I did. Okay. I guess, yeah. Okay, the order is case, or rather, I'm going to start with an overview. I'm going to make an argument on case debate proper. I'm going to extend a presumption argument. I'm going to answer extinction ways, and then I will do framework of the rest of the game.
Overview, impact calculus, the rest of it.
Okay.
Anyone not ready? Okay.
From highlighted lines, the one I see like drunk, high, and bored human beings should not control nukes. To gay marriage is the pinnacle of liberation. To reform is the only sane option. To indigenous people are predisposed to violence. They have engaged in necropolitical inclusion and exclusion that understands reform and state-based politics as the only solution that is worthwhile in this space while castigating those that refuse its terms. This is a framework debate. The internal debate is a dogmatic and overwhelmingly dominant lens under which most of the discussions on this topic have played out, that they have called for you to engage in once more. That politics produces the necropolitical violence of the internal debate is disembodied, opaques our position within global power, and rationalizes genocide, which proves that their scenario planning encompasses with the skills to trade black streams and colonized deaths for white cisnational life. They have tried to frame the bird's eye view that the plan takes as neutral, but we have proven that the frame of the internal debate produces enjoyment and rationalization of genocidal political projects that enjoin us to see the preservation of empire as the utmost concern at any cost. The alternative instead it rejects that frame and embraces a mode of politics that starts from and builds through the archive of black radical tradition within debate, which forefronts embodied solutions and refuses the sacrifice of some portions of our community in order to preserve others. Now, I will go for a presumption argument. They kind of just let us make this argument in 2NC Crossix. I'll extend it. It's not new because it said, fuck it, yeah, we'll talk about the chart. The unique target for bombers is the app. Bombers get launched if we don't get rid of them. They said they don't get rid of them. MRFs cause extinction. One launch is sufficient to do. The plan takes fails to eliminate those bombers. They necessarily get launched. The right this pressure now frames out the vast majority of the two and see if they're right. The filter unit just for MRFs because arms control is failing now through the imposition of them. The chart proves that even if they don't launch them, the MRFs are still inevitable because they're just like a form of delivery system that exists in like tons of nukes that the 1AC does not reduce. Go to the impact framing of extinction ways. Remember that extinction outweighs is not responsive to case because case can only outweigh in a world of fiat, but we have impact terms using that world or impacts are about the dangers of engaging with their scholarship in this debate, which means extinction outweighs is not a winning PR for them, but you will watch as they try to push the epistemic violence they have committed in debate outside of the frame of visibility through it, which demonstrates that invoking extinction outweighs and weighing against reform is like weighing reform against the kind of epistemic violence they produce in this space. This necropolitical exchange is dropped. Reforms again if you require that we trade black insurance deaths to secure white exist lives. Two implications. One is often saying extinction outweighs requires comparing extinction with necropolitics, but they've conceded a argument that process of comparison is how genocide gets rationalized and alternatives get the world to those world get made unthinkable. So you should refuse that two is defense because voting out does not save any lives. Conceded to be absolute, so even if they sell 100% of extinction today, not everybody needs to live till tomorrow. Only we are doing judge instruction, but why you should weigh epistemic instruction before investment for fiat, which I did above. They cannot solve extinction IRL though because the skills they are used are only uptaken to justify genocide, but they probably can't access that anyway because fiat and red tape means we can't even build those skills. So voting out is the worst of the worst of both worlds. Now drop down to the framework debate, the debate proper. Value the way it sees intentional curation, scholarship, defense, the resolution. We've critiqued our burden of joining the plan because the types of debates that produces is counterinsurgent. Every link proves that, which means the undercommon pedagogy is that frames out all of the offense about fairness in this debate, rejecting impulsive and extinction ways because that is not a neutral and equally predictable or negotiable choice because they've justified the plan through a violent scholarship under the guise of being a necessary form is impossible and undesirable to compare those two things. Genocide outweighs when our pretty explicitly concedes links to the GATT evidence, which should zero any possibility of deciding the fairness of clash outweigh because it's the lead term. Violent scholarship produces worse outcomes for clash and policy making. You don't get to say sorry and move on when you defend it in the ways it gets. Which genocide and policy uses biological sense to define claims that depicts indigenous peoples being pre-civilization. That political education produces genocidal political projects to trade off with more radical use of the space because it puts the genocide because it puts the onus on the negative privilege of defending genocide against Palestine. Palestine should outweigh the material impacts of the plan that negotiation of relative violence means there's no possibility for insurgent pedagogy as well. Absent rejecting the AFA, you should ask yourself, why is this the line they chose to apologize for and they failed to apologize or even acknowledge the other links that I have pulled in the lines where they have defined things along the lines of sane or insane. That is also epistemic violence that they have produced in this space that they have failed to touch on in the 1AR, which demonstrates that they will always kind of use extinction to push those things out. Now, we've turned dogmatism into the clash. They can't conceptualize debates outside reformism, which is how they have made the determination or come to the conclusion that theirs is the only fair model of debate, whereas our model both engages in the kind of clash, in kinds of clash that can teach us more proximate skills, and also demonstrated that it is fair. If you think frameworks and wash, you should not to fall after because we have offense against that kind of it's a wash goes after logic. Instead, you should prioritize. Instead, you should. Their interpretation has no way for you to compare episode critiques to hypothetical impacts, which is how the frame of extinction removes the ethical consideration from the ballot. So even if we're not winning an instrumental impact, then you should call the alternative as a more insurgent use of the space thing unlock the potential for anti-nuclear activism. They refuse to capture this debate. Carrots is therefore a dissent to their model debate, which is the action card that I read on permutation, and I will extend here. It says that engagement to reform bravas of the skills that we need to engage in meaningful nuclear activism. The only kind of politics that is worth it is that which refuses professionalization. I'll extend shooting on some arguments to fairness. One way the planet self-serving and moves offense against most of the one I see. Two, unfairness is inevitable. Coaching sources not often new apps. It's not tautological, though we've indicted motive fairness is based on plain text, not fucking speech times. There's no interlink between theirs and ours. Now the permutation, the permutation, drop down the perm, I'll do the link to it here. If we win framework, then they don't get a permutation because they've conceded 6 reasons why it is undesirable. We've fundamentally impact turned the way that they have chosen to take up this space, but the alternative asks us what we could do with our time when we are gathered in this space, and a term that our long term that refuses to reform. The one I see is taken up this place as a meaningful place to simulate the reformist demands of the internal debate, whereas the alternative rejects those solutions and moves towards things the debates that we've had against Baylor, remember, where we've had deep and meaningful engagement over questions like can we engage in research distribution, how, what can be done from the imperial guard to ordinance war of Palestine, how the impact questions of gender impact our engagement debate space. Those questions are the ones that the affirmative rights outlet, the permutation can never solve, the rights over via the hostage logic of the internal debate. Finally, I've seen the Plowshare's example as the example of the Bond-Graham evidence. It turns the app and going to the argument about Satanism. They've conceded across the way they map signifiers. It's whether they use the state, which makes their anti-nuclear movements ultimately ineffective and zeros the risk that they achieve disarm, because disarm is a signifier that is levied around smaller nuclear reductions, just like the Plowshares did, which is the author that they read to maintain the ideology of some deterrence is necessary to produce an ethos of fear of manure that leaves bombers intact, professionalized disarm movements, and produces necropolitical violence against those who refuse this.
Cool. 601. Starting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm good. So that goes. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Sure. Just start it. Start it. My timer did not start. Does anyone have the time? You're just...
Like 4:30.
Thank you.
driving? Oh, yeah.
Matt, can you hear me all right? Sweet. Everyone good for an order? Order is going to be case.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Case.
Case, wherever you flow the presumption stuff, wherever you flow the framework stuff, and wherever you flow links K proper.
Okay. Got it.
Is anyone not good? Sweet. Let's start. You are going to vote for the team that controls the internal link to nuclear destruction and is winning the need for fiat space and in-depth debates over the validation of state actions. Mercs are existentially dropped U.S. development and deployment that is increasing in ICBMs and subs uniquely endowed powers to trash global proliferation Mercs, which destroys strategic stability and destroying nuclear use and extinction of clubs in society. Famine runs rapid values here. Environment is destroyed, including all element and extinction elimination is key. Mercs increase strength, accessibility, flexibility, single word, single multiple targets, link, cancel, first use or lose French which destroys armed targets, try or die for the app remote sensing that allows other countries to be able to see location of nuclear arms subs. It makes them preemptively try to take out Mercs to be labeled on ICBMs now. It causes proliferation and destabilizes global processes, answering presumptions about the bomber stuff. First, Mercs can't be deployed on bombers, so they mentioned this speech you would answer the whatever Mercs cannot be deployed on bombers. So the first big new start treaty they talk about just list Mercs as something that they would have gotten rid of. A new start obviously got pulled out, so it didn't happen in the second place. Second, they are wrong about our analysis of why we didn't get rid of Mercs. We think the data line is very specific why short-term nuclear restraint, not full nuclear restraint, is key. Even if you think that they're winning some unique as requiring that institutional reform gets packaged just by prosaic bureaucratic then you give them no link. I was failed to explain the material action of restriction of U.S. nuclear forces and how that leads to rampant military state share further justifies violence. Just on an abstract level, they might get this, but they haven't explained why getting rid of Mercs is bad, but it is good because showing the short-term nuclear restriction is key to successful telos and movements towards restoring large global peace. Tandem talks about how we need to package pros, and I'm going to move on to the framework proper. Extend our interpretation that you weigh the adverse the links to the plan's invitation. I'm going for clashes independently results and dogmatism and impacts that fantastically extended the 1AR. Can you hear my water? The interpretation creates a model where debate race to the margin and nullify the consequences of the plan and the ability to engage with the critique writ large. The model of the 1AC scholarship forces debaters into debating small one line of the 1AC which understands the nuances of both critique the app and operates on a massive internal link terms their education offense because these will justify their decision not based on the education they gave but the way they can access strategic advantage to win the ballot arguments they made through prove competitive incentives that means the team to re-highlight arguments to say things like Mercs good or arms control works because it's easier to win the debate the documents the impact solved of our model solves the absent full engagement with the implementation of the plan. We've logged into our system where we are never able to interact with the critiques theory of power which internally turns this education because the dogmatism from other debaters within the space forces forces certain communities to do more work for teams to actually engage with the critique. The impact terms were not sufficient enough for you to vote on them. There's no expectation on why waiting the plan actually works to justify genocide. That's going to be more on the case outweigh stuff, but we are going to beat the social darkness outweigh any of their fairness stuff if you're going to vote on that, because it filters all the education, which means the only unique impact from debaters receive, even if they're right that the state authors do bad things, is key to social dogma is key to understanding that around in the first place, because you have a stable link around to discuss the means in which the topic talks about these bad things. They also dropped the Archer 18 evidence, which is the unique framework offense we're going to go for. Should the students in debate can harness legal and state education to understand the law, strategic reversibility paired with survivable skills that help us navigate constant violence, roots that policy reform and community organization must proceed together. That NAACP was building advocacy campaigns to challenge radical and economic injustice, needs to re-embrace and update the concept of integrated advocacy to challenge systematic problems. Advocates should have skills that help them get about law, but advocates should work to create strategies to knowing about the flaws and weaponizing them. I'm going to move onto the case outweigh stuff proper, but you're going to vote on case outweigh because they're the only ones who control the best opportunity to construction. The bombers argument still isn't sufficient enough because they failed to make any race explained by bombers would lead to a nuclear strike, or it gives them a presumption about it. Additionally, all doesn't materialize just on the U.S. nuclear arsenal in any way, so extinction is still the biggest impact here. Answering the justifying genocide stuff, but it does not. The one to see ISCON evidence is fantastic and really extended. It talks about analyzing state action. It's incredibly useful to get verifiable answer to analyze historical cases. The U.S. is the root cause of nuclear insecurity, but only by arbitrary behavior as response to the U.S. can we understand what actions the U.S. Takes to our road iron arms. Case comes first. Any risk that most immediate existential risk from slow violence and after the nuclear catastrophe resolves a prominent cause of necropolitic violence means you vote at first, so the K impacts are underestimated since they never happen. You overcorrect for the app. Second, that always prioritizing makes it inevitable. And third is that you extend the Barclay evidence. It's not a hierarchical value claim about which violence matters more or less, rather it's a visible other forms of violence that happen through the process, like radiation, poison, famine, increased mining, testing, painful burns. This was the cross moment when they failed to explain what the exchange economy would actually look like between trading off between extinction and reform, when we think we can do both. That all happens in a world of nuclear use and increased prolife. That was those security evidence was also talked about increasing human rights requires humans to be alive first. Onto the link debate proper. I'm going to spend the rest of the time here, but you filtered the entire link debate through the missing link turn. The one is elimination of ICUs and substance engages in anti-necropolitical action that refuse the state ability to modernize the nuclear arsenal. It enables specific targeting of cities and population. MIRVs allow multiple warheads to strike targets simultaneously under the justification of a safer nuclear strike. Those are the key words that state bureaucrats use to justify their policy in the development of MIRVs. MIRVs are seen as a more strategic and stable. However, the app is a unique uncovering of this that showcases that MIRVs are not used for that. However, they're just used in the United States to further perpetuate their ability to utilize their emperor abroad and to protect the white nuclear family. The app stops MIRVs from being unloaded to ICBMs and subs being used for this. We're not going for this link term, but this bolsters all of our no link arguments because the research focuses the app as well, and as well as our positionality towards this is about how we deconstruct the norms surrounding nuclear use and force pro-state bureaucrats to confront what nuclear weapons are actually used for and what they're used to justify. Additional framing issue, the links are non-unique, filter them all through the term MIRVs are fundamentally shaped IR since the code words and they formula nuclear policy making via arms control failures and first strike fears in U.S. necessitating dominance via nuclear arsenal. And the app solves the deconstruct links onto the links proper. Roy group these no offense on it. Then we said that we don't read and we didn't know the arguments they presented. If anything, this proves our arguments about dogmatism and framework. Can you cross by the index I received in some part of our scholarship is bad. We've won a research practice that forces us to reject parts of the state that material decrease necropolitics employment. These arguments being valuably separated. If we win framework, that means you don't have to evaluate. You go for extinction first.
Here we go.
There we go.